This story comes from a family who moved into an old apartment almost 2 decades ago. This story comes from a family who moved into an old apartment almost 2 decades ago. The building itself was already more than 30 years old, but this apartment had a darker past. It used to be a private clinic, a clinic where illegal abortions were said to have taken place. From the very beginning, strange things started happening. In one particular room, the parents often heard the sound of babies crying, newborn cries, faint but chilling, even though they didn't have children yet. On some nights, they found small handprints on the balcony walls, prints that looked like they belonged to children. Whenever they tried to clean them off, they would return, sometimes multiplied. Years passed. The strange events slowed down, especially after the couple had kids. But the experiences didn't stop completely. They just shifted to their daughter. When she was 12, she went to the kitchen late at night to grab something from the fridge. At the far end of the kitchen, she saw her little sister standing silently, just staring. She spoke to her, but the girl didn't answer. When she closed the fridge door and looked again, the figure was gone. There was no way her sister could have left without being seen. Moments later, she found her sister sitting in the living room, watching cartoons, and she swore she had been there for over an hour. Another time, the girl woke up early to study for an important exam. Around 4 a.m., while washing her face, she heard the sound of her younger sisters laughing and whispering together. Annoyed, she went back to her room only to find them all still asleep. None of them had moved. From that day on, she refused to wake up alone before dawn. And then there were the objects, items that vanished without a trace. The family searched everywhere, only for those same objects to reappear later, in the exact spot they had looked before. The apartment still stands today, ordinary to anyone who walks by. But inside, the memories of what happened there remain a quiet reminder that some places never forget their past. This story comes from a soldier who once served in a remote European garrison. This story comes from a soldier who once served in a remote European garrison. One night, after finishing some paperwork outside his unit, he realized it was too late to travel back. The roads were dark, and the nearest town was over an hour's walk through the mountains. His officer told him to stay overnight and return the next morning. So he went to the canteen, sat in front of the television until late at night. At around 11:30 p.m., the soldier running the canteen apologized and said he had to lock up. Looking for a place to sleep, the man was told, "Check the barracks. There are always empty beds." He wandered through the compound, scanning the buildings. That's when he noticed something strange. At the far edge of the camp stood an isolated barrack. From a distance, he saw soldiers running around it, laughing, chasing each other. They rushed inside, leaving the door wide open. Curious, he approached. From inside came the sound of laughter, banging, and beds being dragged across the floor. He thought, "They're insane. How am I supposed to sleep here?" But when he stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. Something unseen pulled him forcefully into the room and slammed the door. Suddenly the laughter turned sharp, mixed with cries and violent banging. The beds shook as if being thrown around. He felt figures rushing past him, brushing his arms, grabbing him, pulling at him, but there was no one visible. Panic rose. He screamed, swore, and fought to get out. Then, without warning, the lights snapped on. The room was empty. No soldiers, no beds, nothing. When he rushed to the door, it wouldn't open. He pounded and shouted, but no one answered. The lights went out again. The chaos returned, heavy footsteps, shrieks, the sound of beds crashing, shadows racing around him. Desperate, he pulled out his phone and switched on the flashlight. The sight froze him in place. The beds had returned. Dark stains spread across them, dripping to the floor. Blood. Figures in uniform appeared, covered in wounds, staggering and collapsing on top of each other. Their faces pale, their eyes lifeless. The soldier bolted to the door. This time, it opened. He stumbled out into the cold night air, his chest pounding. When he turned back, the barrack was quiet, but in the doorway, figures stood watching him, laughing. He ran straight to a guard on duty and told him what had happened. The guard only nodded and said, "You're lucky you made it out. That building? Soldiers were massacred there years ago. No one sleeps inside anymore, and when someone does, they don't always come back."